Welcome in, everybody, baseball lovers. It's your buddy Choppadong, and today we're going to do another version of the MLB DFS hyper simple lineup construction and research process. Brought to you by the one, the only DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for everything DFS related, from PGA to MMA to NBA. Doesn't matter. We've got you covered. Content, tools, and coaching, making people winners every single day. Most importantly, it's the coaching, because just today, I'll show you really quickly. We got a guy jumped in, said, I'd like some coaching for today's games. I've been getting slaughtered, joined VIP here, and would like some pointers getting back in the money. Boom, immediately myself and another coach jumped in and said, be happy to help you out. Let's start talking. Let's discuss a little bit and see where the conversation goes. This is the type of stuff that we do. We will walk you through your game. So if you're interested, you go down to the comments section, click dfsarmy.com, use that coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, trigger that 20% off discount, get your butt in here, and get the leaks in your game plugged, man. We've got plenty of winning going on right and left every single day across all of the sports that we cover. It's just that simple. I don't know why more people aren't doing it. I mean, we got plenty inside, but I mean, it's like the cure for cancer and scream from a mountaintop. Everybody should be in here. That said, let's dive in. We've got, 4 or 5 games on the early and a few on the late. So we'll 5, I think, on the late, 6 on FanDuel, which is weird. FanDuel is not usually the bigger slate size. It's usually DraftKings that's the bigger slate size, but lately it's been FanDuel. So 1, 2, 3, 4 games right there on the early slate for FanDuel and DraftKings. So what we'll do is we'll actually go into the pitching matchups. You always start with pitching. You always start with pitching. And you look for strong pitching for your rosters and then weak pitching for your bats. And we've got a few ways that we pick that out. A couple of ways that I do it are very, very simple. I'm going to sort down here by the DFSA grade as one. Look at that. Look at that big gap immediately right there. It's Patrick Corbin and then everybody else today. How interesting is that on that early slate? And if you're trying to pick 2 pitchers from DraftKings, good luck. Again, you might jump down here, Pineda, for a little bit of strikeout upside. You get way down in here to these bottom rank stuff with Pomeranz, Buckles. They're probably in play. Their ratings aren't so bad. I like to see them in the 20s when I really want to stack against them. So it looks like it's going to be Patrick Corbin, and then everybody else is in his world. And now, how good's he going to do? I don't really know, because lately, this early part of the year, the pitching is starting to come around a little bit, but it's been off to a very, very rocky start. Some of our bigger pitchers, Chris Sale, isn't right. Some of these other guys that we typically lean on haven't been great. So we've been spreading out a little bit anyway to mitigate our risk, which I would highly encourage you do until we start getting some of these guys giving us the performances that we're used to receiving from them. Looking at Sierra, I look at a combination of DFSA grade, K-score, a little bit of Sierra for my bad pitchers, but I'd like to see some stuff for the good ones. Corbin's got one of the lowest, if not the lowest, on the slate, along with, who's that, Michael Pineda again. So it looks like that's your 1-2 punch, but I haven't used Pineda yet this year, and my guess is that he's coming off of either some sort of an injury or something. So I'd be watching and reading news on him to make sure that's not the case, or make sure he's basically got the leash turned off and he's not going to be capped with innings limits or anything like that. But on FanDuel, pretty much Patrick Corbin or bust. I would hedge, I would probably put 75% of my lineups on a Patrick Corbin, just like we did Cole Hamels the other night. And I'd probably take the other 25%, and just for a little bit of hedge power, I'd kind of break it up among 2 or 3 other guys that I kind of like. Now, there's nobody here that's going to stand out. That's the point. The problem is there's also nobody here that's really going to stand out as super attackable with bats either, because nobody has super low DFSA grades. Nobody has a super bad rating or something. So, again, we're going to be relying on this mediocre pitching. Hopefully we catch right, and looking at things like this Sierra here for Tyson Ross, maybe the Sierra here for Pomeranz. So if we slide back over, maybe you can attack Pomeranz with the White Sox or the Nationals, or you can attack Tyson Ross with the White Sox. That's kind of where you're looking. I don't know if I'd be comfortable making the White Sox, 50-60% of my stacks this morning, but maybe you have to do what you have to do. And it may also indicate a slate that we don't really want to play. Or it may indicate a slate where if we took 20 lineups, and threw them on DraftKings or something, we might really, really lower our exposures to everybody and really balance things out and really try to cover as many bases as possible. It might be a great 150 lineup MME type of slate where you can really cover a lot of bases with 4 games and get 25% chunks of everything and then just hope that it goes off. So let's look at some of the batters that we might want to key around, because no teams are really identifying themselves as that's the offense like Tampa Bay last night. That's the offense that you need to be in because they're facing a bad pitcher and they should go off. Although, quick note, on our existing sheet that we looked at back on Sunday, we should be focused on what? Seattle, New York, Oakland, don't see any of them. Washington's on the slate. Dodgers are not. Cubs not on the slate. Atlanta, Arizona. Oh, they play each other. So those are offenses that have been going okay. Baltimore, Tampa Bay, not so much. So Atlanta, Arizona, and Washington are the three offenses that have been producing runs up to this week. Okay, so those, if you're going for kind of the team approach, that would be one way to do it. If you're looking at a little bit more on the teams that are giving up ERA, you're looking at Baltimore's not on the slate, the White Sox. So the White Sox, that's Detroit. Detroit's in a decent spot if you want to counter stack that. Mets, Royals, Milwaukee Brewers, Boston not on the slate. Miami, Minnesota. Minnesota's on the slate. That would bring Toronto into play. So Toronto, but see how we haven't mentioned the same team twice yet. We don't have a double indicator on a Chicago. We don't have a double indicator on Toronto or Detroit or Washington even. Washington's facing San Francisco. San Francisco hasn't been necessarily one of the worst pitching teams in the league. So again, there's no clear indicator of a bunch of, green flag, green flag, green flag, green flag. This is clearly the path we need to travel. There's none of that going on. So we need to dive into the Trends tab. This is just one way to do it. Sort by your L7 WOBA. And on a balanced slate like today, I will watch the DFSA grade. I want over an 80. I will watch the WOBAs. I want over a 420. So if I really wanted to, I can come down here and I can filter this out to where I'm no greater than, say, I'm greater than 419 only. Now my 420s are there, my 419s are gone. So that's all I've really got in this L7 category. And it's a lot of names because I haven't narrowed down my picks yet to just the teams on the early. So I'll do that, pull up just those 4 games, and this list gets shorter. Now, because I don't have a specific team that I'm after, I might do a bunch of 2-offs, 1-offs, and 2 stacks and whatever, and try and get some exposure around. Or I might just say YOLO and just drop a big 5-stack in of a team and hope that's the higher scoring team on the slate. But it doesn't look on paper like anybody's going to go score 6, 8, or 10 runs this afternoon, so we might want to balance out and take pieces out of everywhere. And to do that, I'm going to start with these positions, and I'm going to say Garver and McCann are my only catching options today for the most part. First base, Justin Smoke is playing okay. Matt Adams, if he gets the start again. Christian Walker hits the ball hard. Brandon Belt. Brandon Belt's a sneaky one-off. I usually, now going against Patrick Corbin, this might be the opportunity to stack against the chalk. Corbin should be the chalk. So take yourself to San Francisco. They've scored, 7 the last 2 nights? It's not terrible. And you probably get lower ownership on them, and you end up with a Brandon Belt type. We'll see if more San Francisco guys pop onto this list. Not like 440's ripping the cover off the ball, but it's not brutal. And it's a leverage play. Second base, there's no panic on there. Howie Kendrick, if he gets a start, a lot of short sample sizes here. Gurriel Jr. So, again, you're kind of running wide open on this slate. Donaldson's hitting the ball better. Rendon, Moncada. I take a player like a Rendon that can truly break the slate in the optimizer, and that's what I would do also with back there on, where was I pointing it out? On second base or was it first base? With a Brandon Belt type. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take their projections and manually throw them through the roof on my optimizer, and that way, if I'm not including these guys in stacks, I'm getting a true slate breaker as my one-off. I'm going to take my stacks and make them more of my value plays where they can correlate and kind of parlay on top of each other and kind of scoop multiple varieties of points. A base knock that scores a run, RBI, whatever, because I'm not going to be getting the true 2 home run type power off of my stacks and whatnot. So I would rather use my 2 home run slate breaking power for my one-offs and round out, go get some value stacks and then round that off with big power in the one-offs. And the way I do that, my VIPs have a video that they can watch that shows how I manipulate the Domination Station Optimizer to produce that so that you can start seeing where I'll pull a Rendon in as my one-off. I'll pull an Acuna in as my one-off. I'll pull you know, even a cheaper player like a Matt Adams in as my one-off because he's got true double home run power. Over on the not a lot in the shortstop area, Jorge Polanco's not terrible. Charlie Culberson is getting very, very small at bat sample sizes. You can see by the L7 WOBA, you know, your Dansby Swanson's fallen off the map. Shouldn't be using him right now. His price came up. His WOBA fell off the map. He's not producing to his price right now. He's overpriced. He was the diaper dandy last week. I was using him everywhere, but the minute he falls off this L7 list, boom, I'm done with him. He's dead to me. Move on with outfielders, and then we'll go ahead and cut this video. We may roll into the second one. Probably cut this one off and come back later for the second part. Outfield, Acuna obviously leading the way. That would be one that I would take his projection. If it says 9 points, I wouldn't be afraid to give him 12, 13, 14 points just to get the optimizer tricked into putting him in as a one-off everywhere so that when I'm not using Atlanta as a stack, I'm using a lot of Acuna as my one-off. That is going to force the high-priced one-off because it wants him in there so much that it's going to also trick the domination station to, it has to pay for it somehow, so it goes and takes a bunch of value out of your stacks. And it gets just what I'm looking for, which is those guys using each other because they don't have the slate breaking power on their own. And then I got the one-off that can put me over the edge if he connects. Cave has been getting some at-bats. He's been fine. Camargo obviously has been fine. Goodrum in Detroit, if you're wanting a Detroit type of stack, this is who I would build around. I'd also be looking for a small sample Christian Stewart if he's starting. Goodrum and Stewart are the two I would probably be building around in that offense. Arizona, if you want to go a little bit off kilter there, they'll be a little bit lower owned. I don't think LeCastro's getting a lot of starts. Minnesota down here with Eddie Rosario, and then, of course, up here with Cave. And then Washington has a couple of guys in Michael Taylor. Notice there's no Bryce Harper on here. Doesn't mean he can't break the slate. It just means he's not swinging a hot bat right now. That's essentially how you're going to go through these things on a slate like today. You've kind of got some marching orders. You got your game plan. I personally would be more balanced. I would take a dominant pitcher and then hedge off of him in some places. And where I do hedge off of him, I would be contemplating a San Francisco stack, being that they've scored some runs in Washington. And then, of course, I would be trying to take one-offs and two-offs where I can, using value for my stacks and using big one-offs as my slate-breaking power towards the end of the build. And hopefully I hit my Acuna play and it goes for 30. And yes, I'm right in there with the rest of the stacks, but if the rest of the stack doesn't do much because Acuna did all of the damage, then I'm more efficient because I'm out of there and I'm using 3 other teammates somewhere else that are cheaper to not only pay for Acuna, but to also parlay their points in their offense, and hopefully they score 4 or 5 runs today and get me the points that I need to push me up and over the top in the tournaments. That's how I'm doing it. Hopefully that's how you see it too. If not, I'd be happy to talk to you in Slack, be happy to talk to you out on Twitter as how you see it if you see it from a little bit different angle. I'm Chapadong. This has been the Hyper Simple early slate breakdown. Come back later. We will do the later slate, another 5-game slate, and we'll do it the exact same way. Take care, guys. Ring the notification bell, hit the like and subscribe button down there at the bottom, and always contemplate becoming a member at dfsarmy.com and using code CHOP to do so, CHOP, for that 20% off discount. We'll see you on the inside.